game should have an easy mode. It's one of the most prominent debates I have seen in recent years. I swear, every time someone mentions that, it sparks a lot of controversy among communities. Myself, I'd rather not get involved with those messes. Self-care! But that doesn't mean I don't have an opinion about it, so what do I think of it? For starters, everything I'm about to say is aimed at a general public. I know there's people with disabilities out there who have a harder time with certain games, but I believe that's an entirely different and more sensitive topic that deserves a separate discussion. But I gotta say, I respect companies like Microsoft for continuously pushing peripherals for disabled people so they can enjoy tons of video games. It's not quite there yet, but it's a step in the right direction. So as I was saying, I think the phrase of every game should have an easy mode is valid. Difficulty often plays a huge role on how many people get into a game. Why do you think games like Animal Crossing, Super Mario and many others sell so well? Because they're aimed at a more casual public. They were designed to appeal to a lot of people. Some other games have different philosophies though, and they were built with a more hardcore audience in mind. And while a lot of them do find workarounds these difficulty issues to attract more players, sometimes that is not enough. I've noticed that when people refer to easy modes, it's the usual enemies should hit less, I should deal more damage, or the game should play itself. And that's totally valid, I want to make that clear. Recently more games have been implementing options to help those that need it. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you only need to focus on your ATB gauge, and Hades with its God mode. But have you ever stopped for a minute to think that in some cases that still doesn't guarantee you'll enjoy the game? Let's begin with Dark Souls, the game every incompetent game journalist loves to use as a comparison when they come across a slightly difficult challenge. Every game developed by FromSoftware has always been known for their brutal and unforgiving challenges. For years, people have been screaming for an easy mode in them. But I want to ask you, will that really make a difference? Think about it. FromSoftware is a company that is aware of its reputation and prides itself in that. Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition, getting an achievement for dying the first time in Dark Souls 2. They know that their games are hard, but that's because they were built with that intention. Every boss, every enemy has always had attacks that are easy to telegraph, but they're still very difficult because your character is very limited, the controls are clunky, and every attack has some wind up to it. So, say an easy mode is implemented. Only difference I see is that you'll die slower if you don't know how to deal with the inherent design. One franchise that made me realize numbers don't always make a difference is Shin Megami Tensei. I started with 4, a game I hold in high regards, and my first experience with the series wasn't without pain. During the first few hours it was pretty standard stuff. It was fun, enjoyable, I was fighting demons, recruiting them, fusing and trying to understand the mechanics. Everything was smooth sailing until I reached the legendary Minotaur fight. This moment has always been known as a beginner's trap, and no shit! I lost account of how many times I died against him. No matter what I tried, he will always kick my ass. I leveled up, fused more demons, and nothing worked. I switched to easy mode, and that was still not enough. Do you want to know why? Because in Shin Megami Tensei that doesn't matter. It wasn't until I analyzed the Minotaur, understood his weakness, built a team around that, had good support skills, and prayed Walter wouldn't cast Tagi that I was able to win. And even after that I came across more obstacles where I had to understand and adapt to them. Minotaur is one of my favorite boss fights of all time, simply because he made me realize how different Shin Megami Tensei is from other JRPGs. And easy mode didn't make any difference. The real challenge from this series is understanding its mechanics, know your opponents, and make a strategy that is sure to bring you victory. That is a joy that every Megaten game has given me. Gaia! Gaga! One more franchise I want to point out is Monster Hunter. Throughout the years, this series has become more and more accessible to new players, refining mechanics, adding tons of quality of life changes, and becoming faster with each entry. This has delivered good results in general, as this has attracted new players, myself included, starting with Worth. But even if this series has become easier throughout the years, I think there's still a core challenge that remains unchanged and I greatly respect. I've talked about this with friends during many hunts, that no matter how much you grind, no matter if you have the best armor you can get or how many quality of life changes the games keep implementing, all that is thrown through the window if you can't play well. If you don't know how to use your weapon, you become a deadweight. A huge part of what makes Monster Hunter so much fun is how each monster delivers its own challenge. So if you don't get familiar with them, you'll be knocked away, you won't be able to hit them, and you'll spend most of your time being stunned. Numbers don't make a difference here, because what truly matters is how well you know a monster and how you react to them. Where am I getting with all of this? I want people to realize that when they say every game should have an easy mode, it's not as simple as it seems. Just slap a mode that says easy and call it a day. No, sometimes that is not enough. Some directors want to deliver a hard experience on purpose. Some games were made with the intention of being challenging. Others that even mock you for playing on a lower difficulty. But that's because they're aimed at a specific demographic. Being hard is part of their essence. There's people who love to be challenged, those who get immense satisfaction from overcoming ball-kicking challenges. And while they might get frustrated and mad, they love to see a game through the end, no matter how bullshit it can get. These games were made for them! And I think this is one of the most important parts. Some people might call me an elitist or a gatekeeper for what I'm about to say, but sometimes you have to realize a game is not for you. No matter what you try, you're not gonna like them. Gaming as a whole takes on many forms and genres. It's impossible to like everything it has to offer. I always encourage people to try new games, not just to find more stuff they can enjoy, but also so they can figure out what they like and what they don't. It's a shame, you might miss on something incredible because some things don't make it for you. But I'll tell you something. There's nothing worse than forcing yourself to do something you don't want to. Trust me, I wasted 5 years of my life in college doing a career I hated. If you play a game, but don't find what you were looking for, then...
What's your point?
If it's not for you and you force yourself through it, it's not worth it. I assure you, you'll end up hating it more. But I want to clarify, there's absolutely nothing wrong with easy modes. There's no harm in options that make a game more accessible. And most importantly, it's okay if you prefer to play a game that way. I've done that myself in the past. I'm sure any fan who has followed this channel for a while is aware that I love me a good challenge. One that really pushes me to the edge and puts all my knowledge and skills to the test. But that doesn't mean I'm against easy modes at all. In fact, that's how I got into a lot of games. There's the SMT4 example I mentioned, but here's an even better one. Fire Emblem. You know I adore this franchise, I'm so crazy for it to the point I've been playing the same gacha game for years. You know how I got into it? I played the casual mode in Awakening on my first playthrough. Back then, when the game released, this feature was controversial among fans. And even after I permanently moved to classic mode, I sadly became an elitist asshole towards those who prefer casual. I was a dumbass teenager, but luckily, I matured and left that mentality behind. And you know what helped me develop? I realized that the way in which people enjoy a game is none of my business. I prefer to play classic mode. Others might prefer to play casual, and that's totally okay. There was also something more. The fact that casual mode is entirely optional. It's not like since Awakening the games have been going, you're gonna play casual mode and see your unit survive whether you like it or not. Fuck no! I can play in hard classic because I am given the choice to do so. But I believe there's still an important underline here, because if you want to attract newer fans, while keeping the old ones happy, these difficulties need to be an option. So what happens when you don't get any of that? Pokemon is perhaps the absolute worst at this, and that has actually pushed me away from the series. I really hate Ultra Sun and Moon. I know these games are aimed at a younger audience, thank you for putting the obvious. But their core gameplay is so attractive to me. I can go back to any of the previous games because I still find them fun. Nowadays the games have implemented so many features and an excessive amount of tutorials. And I get that. They serve to make the games less frustrating and make sure new players don't get confused, but... I've been playing this series my whole life. I know how to catch, use items, make teams, and this is what I cannot stand. Pokemon games are not complex at all, but they never give you an option to customize your experience. And that's why I find it so hard to enjoy them now. Ever since Gen 6, I find myself on autopilot throughout my adventures. Give me the option to say no during a tutorial. Stop interrupting my progress every 10 seconds so you can handhold me. Let me skip unnecessary dialogue that kills the pacing. The EXP share always being active has divided the fans, and it's no wonder why, because players who want an extra challenge don't have the option to turn it off anymore. Real question here. Why did they give up on multiple difficulty settings from Black and White 2? Yeah, they were stupid to unlock, but at least it was a half step in the right direction. Pokemon is a franchise that deep down I still really care for, but it's so frustrating how a lot of my enjoyment is taken away from it because I am never given options to play how I'd like to. But hey, on the bright side, that actually pushed me to play more Shin Megami Tensei titles. Always look for the positive side of things. So what did we learn today? I agree that every game should have an easy mode, but people have to realize that sometimes that is not enough. Because every game is made in its own unique way, and some of them have an inherent design that might not resonate with the casual player. It's okay to admit that at times a game is just not for you, and there's no shame in that because... look! This game shelf is just a microscopic piece of what gaming has to offer. There's an incredible amount of video games and genres that spawn across many platforms. You don't always have to aim for whatever new title everyone is currently talking about. If you look hard enough, I promise you'll find a goldmine of games that are made for you. You may not be able to get a triple S rank on every mission in Devil May Cry, but you sure as hell will have one of the most beautiful islands in Animal Crossing. I might never be able to beat a shooter on the highest difficulty because I suck at aiming. But not gonna lie, I ain't half bad when it comes to Picross puzzles. So before you leave, let me tell you something. If you find a game that clicks with you, but the best way you can enjoy this by playing on the lowest difficulty, do it! Do it! And if you reach the end, congratulations! You beat the game! Just remember, you're always bound to come across people who will belittle you for playing on the lower difficulties. And there's even games that mock you when you play an easy mode. But you know what I think? Screw them! It's your experience! The only thing that should matter is how you felt while playing and what you take from it. If you want to get better and try harder difficulties, that's awesome! If you want to replay the game on the same easy setting, that's valid too, because that tells me you enjoy your time so much you want to relive the experience. As long as you get what you wanted from a game, that's what truly matters. Never forget that.